Welcome to the Vine Resources podcast show. Welcome to another edition of the Vine Resources podcast show. I'm delighted to have with me today Bipin Upadhyay from the Bigger Circle. I probably pronounced that terribly, Bipin, so I do apologise. You're gonna pronounce it much better than I am. Bipin, you're the CTO at Bigger Circle over in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Bipin, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Happy to be here. Thank you for.
How should I have pronounced it?
It's Bipin Upadhyay. The problem is the DH sound doesn't exist in most languages. It's one of the reasons I'm very popular at my blood donation bank, because every time I go, they try to pronounce the name.
Bipin, thanks for joining me on the show. Can I just perhaps give our listeners a little bit of an insight into who a Bigger Circle are and what the company does?
So we are a social media agency. What this means is the way most people look at social media is to connect with friends. The way companies look at it is to reach people who are on social media agencies, build relationships, because search engines are primarily when you're looking for a solution. Social media is where you're looking to build relationships. And we are the people who come up with new ideas, concepts, and actual things that builds new relationships between brands and people, maintains it, and ensures that the relationship goes in the direction where you want it to. And it's a fairly critical job. One mistake, one wrong tweet, and the shares start dropping. You must have heard some stories here and there, and it's a very the job of a community manager and any concept that you're drawing upon is very, very interesting. It's very important as well.
You got about 30 people in the company in the Netherlands. Can you share what with our listeners what a typical day in the business looks like for you as the CTO?
So, as you know, it's the same for you. I guess there is no typical day, but what happens is. I think the design thinking approach is exactly how most of the times you work things out. Oftentimes, regardless of whether the work is technical or non-technical, you're trying to observe and figure out what the exact problem is. You're not trying to listen to what the person is saying the problem is. You're trying to understand what the exact problem is so you can define it properly. Then you prototype it. And then you build it and test it. And this goes on with technology problems. It goes on with non-technology problems as well. If a client comes to you and says that I want to get more number of likes on my page, that's not really the actual target. You have to look at where the brand values lie. What exactly is the direction? Because you have a lot of, this is just a very specific example, but you have a lot of fake likes and fake followers. You don't really want to get those. It's not really worth your time. And same with technology. So you want to build things that are actually usable.
And can you name perhaps a person who's had a tremendous impact on you as a leader? And maybe it's even been a mentor to you.
So in this regard, there has not been a single person, because growing up I tried to have heroes, bunch of cricketers, but then I always found there was some flaw in everyone, and that my teenage heart could not bear. For a long time I followed Gandhi, but then at some point of time I realized that there are certain teachings by Gandhi I don't align to. So for most part it's been books. My younger brother has been a huge inspiration in random places. I really hope he doesn't listen to this. But I think if I have to pick one thing, I've volunteered in for some movements. One of them is called Speak McKay. I volunteered for Speak McKay in college. And I think I learned most from them, from my professor, Dr. Dhanada Mishra, and especially the juniors. So it's not one person, but it's the people who I volunteered along with at Speak McKay when I was in college.
Bipin, can you tell us a little bit about employee engagement? From my side, I believe it's critical for the success of any business. What do you do from the top to keep your employees engaged?
I think the first key is understanding that there is no top, and if there is, I'm not the one on top. And I really like the phrase that I keep hearing these days, which is servant leadership approach. You're primarily there to help your employees. You're not there to direct them. And in the previous question, I mentioned that I learned mostly from my juniors in college. One of the things that was very, very important is so we were a volunteer movement and everybody was there to help each other out. But I always felt terrible asking people to do something because it felt like I'm asking people to do something for free. And one day a junior of mine came and she says, you realize that people are here to help you out, and by not letting them help, you're insulting them. And that was, I think, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that if people are joining your company, they're there to help you out. They're there to find some meaning in what they're doing. So you need to let go of the feeling that if somebody is not working for the 10 minutes you saw them, they're not really there to work. Everybody's there to work. What that means is that just any time somebody runs into a problem, help them out, give them the scope to make mistakes, learn from them, and all that we keep talking about. And so but these are all abstract thoughts. So one of the things I learned is have a face-to-face monthly meetings where it's not a feedback meeting. I'm not there to give a feedback. There will be time for that in other occasions. But this is just one of those times when I sit down and listen. And it's worked out well. It's also that not everybody is comfortable, not everybody wants that face-to-face. There are people, especially in tech, it happens is that people just want to come, get work done, and go home.
What do you believe is the biggest challenge facing business leaders today?
Most of them are something that have been there for a long, long time, which is how the new emerging technologies come up, and then you have to keep up and understand and make sense of it. Blockchain is one of them. Everybody keeps talking about blockchain. AI, machine learning has been there. That's going to change a lot of in the way we do a lot of things. And then there are certain things that you don't realize where 3D printing is one of those technologies. We actually experiment with almost all of this, except we have not experimented with 3D printing yet. But I'm helping a client with a blockchain project. A part of my team is building Snapchat AR and VR lenses. One of the employees is actually working on a really cool project using VR. So these are the things you have to keep up with. But then there are also some subtle issues that happen. These days it's become very, very easy to start and scale a business, especially in technology. You spend half an hour on Amazon or Google and then you already have scalable servers. This used to take months. Friendster was the first social network. It could not handle the growth. And today it just becomes that you sit down, click a button, and your servers are now scalable. So those are the other challenges, that ideas are important, execution is important, just that execution has become much, much easier.
Absolutely. And what do you think is the best bit of business advice you've ever received?
The one I said, delegation. That's definitely really, really important. But there's something I got as an advice from my father, which was not meant to be business advice. I was this militant atheist when I was in college. I thought everybody should become atheist. My parents are fairly religious, but they never really pushed me into it. That's one thing I'm very happy about. But then one day my father sat me down and he said that you don't believe in God because there is a God that will help you out solve problems. You believe in God because you can put your problems on some entity and next day go on to solve those problems. Now the thing is, I'm still not religious. I'm what you would call an apathetic agnostic, who doesn't care whether God exists or not. But I think there's a very, very important piece of advice, and it is that if you can't do something about a problem, worrying is not really something that's going to help you out. Put the worry aside and try if you can solve the problem. Of course, it's easier said than done, but then I think this is one of the most important advices I've ever received.
How do you, at a bigger circle, how do you get your employees to understand the culture of the company?
Oh, you can't hire and then train them for culture. You have to hire for the culture fit. And our entire recruitment process is geared towards that. So we have to, the first round where we interview somebody is where we tell them how we work. And we tell them that you're going to spend more time with us than you're going to spend with your family. And you need to be sure that you want to spend it with us. The job is not the most important part. You'll find new jobs, but you need to find that. And then we do a bunch of other things in the hiring process. The new experiment we'll be doing is that the first round we used to have the final round with the CEO of the company, but there is a new interviewee, and we are going to have the first round with the CEO. So we have that cleared. So basically, even the candidate doesn't have to spend a lot of time in the programming and other challenges before we know that the person is a culture fit.
Yeah, understood. And what is the one mistake that you witness leaders perhaps making more frequently than others?
I think, so one is fairly common, which is we look at leadership as something that has hierarchy, which I mentioned is that leadership is not really about leading people in the sense that knowing every aspect of the problem. Leadership is primarily building that framework based on your values and ensure that it's easier for people to align with it. So there is no hierarchy. You're just there to serve everyone, achieve that goal. But the other thing which you see coming primarily from the Silicon Valley, and it's become a little bit of a viral disease, is the race to scale undermines the repercussions and the ripple effects that your product may cause. And while Uber is an amazing business, it's just one of those things where you don't realize how you're affecting the society sometimes. And it's just there are times when you need to take a step back and understand that everything is a cost, and if you're going to grow your business, these are the costs that you or the society has to pay. Are you ready for that? So it doesn't really impact the business in a negative way in the short run, but in the long run, everything comes back.
Bipin, what do you perhaps believe that is the one trait that derails more leaders' careers than anything else?
Lack of communication and conflict resolution. It's not, running a business is not really that difficult from handling a relationship. It's built on relationship with your colleagues and your clients and other people. And if you can't keep clarity in it, if you can't regularly have a conversation to ensure that the conflicts are resolved, it's not going to really help you in the long run.
How do you see, perhaps particularly at the bigger circle, how do you see your industry changing over the next few years, and how will that impact your ability to hire and retain the best talent?
So one is that because the industry is changing so fast, you don't really have enough skilled people. That's one of the bigger issues. The other thing which I am, and this is completely in my opinion, but I'm slightly worried about is that in-house freelancers and workers and outsourcing houses are more and more being replaced by remote workers. People are people prefer now to work remotely increasingly. This has also been driven partially by the growth of gig economy, because and companies like it because they don't really have to take care of your health benefits and other stuff. Employees like it because they can travel anywhere anytime they want and work remotely. The problem is the whole so far what we have been doing is ensuring a good work environment for culture fit and all that, lunch, dinner and everything. None of that matters anymore. So you need to figure out new hiring frameworks where you identify people that you can work remotely with. This is and the more tangible thing is, especially in tech, is that now your code needs to have better quality assurance. You have multiple people working in different time zones. You can't afford to have a code that's not well tested or well architected. So those we will probably see a lot more happening on those lines, especially after GDPR in European Union. Those are the things also that's going to push more control over quality. Security is going to gain more importance.
And if perhaps you were giving your 20-year-old self advice, Bipin, what one thing would you say to yourself if you had your time over again?
It's the same thing that I need to digest now. It's that you cannot do it all. There's this, I think it's partially because of the Indian upbringing where everything is competitive when you're a kid in school. You have to do everything. By everything I mean studies, not sports. But you are competitive so much that right now what happens is that I have to keep up with building products, business strategies, then I have to learn blockchain, machine learning, all of that, because I want to keep up with all of it. And I think I would summarize that, dude, none of this matters. Eventually you're going to die. Work on things you like and let go of things you can't. So yeah, I think I would learn, I need to say no to myself more than I need to say no to others.
Bipin, that's great advice, and I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Bipin, how can people reach out to you? How can people get in touch with a bigger circle? What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
So I'm on Twitter. My handle is Bipin U. So Bipin and then first letter of my surname. They can drop me an email, bipin@abiggercircle.com. And if they are in Amsterdam, they can ping me. I run a whiskey club meetup, so I can invite them for a whiskey sometime, and then we can have a chat.
That's very kind of you. And if they do hit you up on Twitter or LinkedIn or your email, please do mention you heard him on the Vine Resources podcast show. That would be fantastic. Look, Bipin, thank you so much for sharing that insight. It's been really great talking to you today. And as it's the start of the year, I wish you the best for 2018.
Oh, same to you. And thank you so much for having me.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you.